All right, good morning, everyone. Take two. I am Jessica Hector, so I'm the Director of Planning and Market Development at RTA and the new chair of the committee. So I'm going to call to order the Transportation Committee for Friday, February 4th, 2022. As permitted by the governor's disaster declaration of January 7th, 2022, the determination has been made that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent for this committee. To ensure that the meeting is as transparent as possible, we posted the meeting materials approximately 1 week in advance. We'll provide a recording of this meeting linked to the CMAP website, and we'll take all votes by roll call. So with that, we will have Lindsay call the attendance roll call. Lindsay.
Okay, we'll start again with Chuck Abraham or Khalil. Darwin Burkhart.
Here.
Kevin Carrier.
Good morning, here.
Lynette Ciavarella.
Here.
Leah Mooney.
Here this time.
Thanks. John Donovan.
Here.
Doug Ferguson.
Here.
Tony Griep.
Here.
Lisa Lawson Stark. Robert Hahn. Jessica Hector Sue.
Here.
John Paul Deepla.
Here.
Tom Kelso. Jackie Forbes.
Here.
Christina Kopkowski.
Here.
Eric Llewellyn.
Here.
Chris Hebert.
Here.
Tara Orban.
Present.
Jessica Ortega. Heidi Prasad.
Here.
Thank you. John Basic. Tom Rickert.
Here.
Mayor Rockingham.
Here.
Joe Schoper.
Here.
Vig Krishnamurthy.
Present.
Chris Snyder, I don't know if he made it in yet. P.S. Siraj. Scott Weber. Audrey Wennick.
Here.
Rocco Zucchero.
Present.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. We're all really awake now. Moving on to agenda item 2, agenda changes and announcements. First, a couple of reminders. When you make a motion, please use your name in the motion so that we know who made it. And if anyone wishes to address the committee during item 10, public comment, please indicate your desire to do so in the question box, as CMAP staff are monitoring that and will be able to unmute you to share your thoughts. So there are no agenda changes. Do we have any announcements for the committee?
I do have one announcement. This is Tara
Sure,
Orban.
Go ahead, Tara. Yeah.
I just wanted to let everyone know that the current Invest in Cook call for projects is out, and Cook County Department of Transportation and Highways will be accepting applications up until March 16th of 2022. Thank you.
Thanks, Tara. Any other announcements? All right, seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Leah.
Just quickly, the Red Line extension is completing the supplemental EA, which we are doing as we complete our final EIS, and it's to document a few changes since our draft EIS. And as part of that, we'll have public hearings. We're doing both in person and virtual, and those are in person on February 17th and virtual on February 15th. And you're welcome to reach out to me or check our website for more information. It's under the RLE What's New.
Great, thanks, Leah. Any other announcements?
Yeah, hi, this is Mike Vanderhoff. Can you all hear me now?
We can, yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna be speaking for Tom Kelso in this meeting, so had to log out and get back in with a different access code. I just wanted to check, so thank you. I'm here.
Okay, great, thank you. We'll have Lindsay note that. All right, other announcements? No? All right, let's move on to agenda item 3, information items. For this, I am going to hand it off to Erin to give us some context before she turns it over to Laura to provide an overview of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. So Erin, off to you.
Okay.
little bit of deja vu here, but I do feel like I need to say it again for the recording, is that, thanks to Jessica for chairing the committee and for Kevin Carrier for stepping up to be the co-chair of this committee, newly appointed at the MPO meeting last month. So we're looking forward to continuing to work with both of you on this committee. Before Laura starts, I want to just thank everyone for taking time to meet today. I know we've got 2 meetings in February, the shortest month of the year, but I do think, it's a needed conversation for us to talk about the opportunities that we have before us here. So this is really just the first step in that conversation that we need to have with all of the region's implementers. We want to make sure that we're setting ourselves up to be both competitive and successful as we emerge from the pandemic, but also that we're well positioned to get new dollars moving and bring home as many federal competitive dollars that we can to execute the programs that really will continue to maintain the region's global position that we have here. So all of the work that we do here at CMAP is really in support of our shared regional goals outlined in the 2050 plan, prioritizing investments, making certain that we are thinking about how our communities and our infrastructure can be resilient to change, thinking about how we can support inclusive growth across the region, because we really are only as strong as our weakest communities. I really want to just share with you, I love this region and all of the communities, and every community has something unique to offer. And I want to recognize too that our plans and programs really attempt to recognize that. And so I think as we look at the new resources that are available here, we are going to need programs, strategies, and solutions that are going to help address the diverse array of strengths and needs across our region. And that's really where you come in, right? Is that your perspectives from your respective agencies, whether you represent transit, a county, a local municipality, the tollway, right? Is that you're bringing your users and your customers' perspectives and your experience out in the region to us at the regional agency, and that we're finding ways to develop solutions jointly together. So, I think again, as we think about what's ahead of us, we have an opportunity to really be successful as a region. And I want to make sure that we're doing all that we can as the regional planning agency to make sure that we're well coordinated on that path. So I'm excited to have the team talk with you a little bit about some of the things that are in our budget and work plan for the next year, the opportunities that present ourselves, and the new funding pots that are available that Laura will talk about are things that we've been taking steps forward on in our plan and our long range planning activities and our data services that we provide for everyone here as well. So with that, I think, again, Laura's going to talk about the new funds and opportunities and hit on some of the things that we should be preparing for. And that Yusuf is really going to talk about those things that we've been teeing up over the past few years and building up a 2050 that now we have the opportunity to, I think, to really develop some unique implementation activities here as a region. So again, this is the first of a series of conversations that we want to have with you. We will continue this conversation at the next meeting, but we do have some practical objectives. The first of which is really making sure that we're getting the draft UWP program to IDOT so that we can make sure that we have a contract in place by July 1st, the start of the fiscal year. So with that, let me turn it over to Laura, who's going to talk on some of the IIJA opportunities that we have here. Laura?
Yep. Thanks, Erin. So I'll just start by saying a reporter asked this week how I was feeling about the passage of the new federal bill, and I said it is so completely exciting and definitely overwhelming all at the same time. And I know that so many of you worked with us through the past few years about having a regional consensus on guiding principles for the bill. And so, I know our head's down and we're moving towards this bill, but I just wanted to put my head back up for a second and be like, thank you for all the work you guys were doing when we were advocating for all of the pieces as part of this bill. It's been years coming that we've been trying to work on this, and now it's here. So it's really exciting. I wanted to spend some time talking about kind of our role. And I think there's some people who are unmuted, so just make note of it as we go through. Wanted to talk about how we're going to be approaching the IIJA or bill, depending on how you want to brand it. So wanted to spend some time on that. So I think we can move forward in the PowerPoint. It's really kind of the new role for us as we are in service to the region. There's a number of new and expanded roles that we need to be playing. Again, there's new funding, and I'll go through all of these as we discuss things for new programs, for our current programs. There's new policies that we need to review and analyze. We need to establish and set up frameworks for the competitive programs. And we want to, again, have achieved regional consensus on our priorities for those current programs. So I'm going to go through each of those right now. So we can go to the new funding. So, you know, when we think of the infrastructure bill, we immediately think of all of the new money that's coming to the region. And for us as the MPO and implementing that, that means we need to prepare to analyze more of the projects, even those under existing programs. So that will take financial analysis, modeling, project criteria review, and more. So I want to talk a little about those programs that are coming in through formula. As you guys know, we have the increase in the Surface Transportation Block Grants, CMAQ program, the Metropolitan Planning Program. All of these programs have received significant increases that will allow for implementation of projects to occur faster. We want to be able to help our partners like you access these funds as quickly as possible to get the projects built. This means things like our transportation programming, the TIP, in order to be more successful with both the new state motor fuel tax and the IIJ funding, we're going to have to be working efficiently to make sure that almost twice as much money is getting out as efficiently as possible in order to, again, move these projects forward. That does mean that we will need more resources in order to support even the base programs that we are programming today. And then we can move on to other programs, there we go, that are coming in through formula that are going to the state. These programs, as you'll note, are supporting themes that we've been talking to you about and you've been talking to us about, the importance of safety and being ready to get the resources that fall under the HSIP program, and that has definitely increased. Grade crossing improvements. We have both that on the formula side and on the discretionary side. We want to make sure that we've done the analysis and prioritization of projects in order to get those projects ready to get out through the new formula process as well. So those are the current formula programs. Now we have new programs that are being established. It's not just the new funds that are flowing into the region. We have these new programs where we're going to need to be ready to program them for the region. So I think we can move on from there. So thinking about the new programs, we've already begun having conversations with you and the Illinois Department of Transportation that we believe that allowing CMAP to program some of these funds on behalf of the region will allow us to get out faster delivery of the projects and of the objectives that we've put out in 2050 plan. So this does mean that staff would need to work to set new project criteria for things like the carbon reduction program and the PROTECT program. We'd need to set up calls for projects, we need new timelines, new processes to ensure that the process for these new programs are equitable, transparent, and productive. Again, this means that we'll need more resources to ultimately get the funding from Fed, state to you in order to have more localized decision-making and improved project implementation timelines. And then we move on from just the formula to the new policies. And there's a lot of new things that are in this bill. We're still combing through, and I'm sure like you, we're all been working diligently to try to spend a lot of time in a huge bill to understand this. So aside from the direct funding, we need to really dig into the policies. Staff will be spending time this year to both review and analyze all of the new requirements, share those analysis with our partners, see what policy roles and changes that we need to be working on to align our future work better with the intentions and opportunities that are in this bill. That includes things like the set aside for PL funds for complete streets, new CMAQ eligibilities, there's new TAP eligibilities, there's new highway safety improvement program requirements, the highway program expansion that includes resiliency. We want to make sure that we're prepared for all of these opportunities and that not only that we understand it, that you understand it, and we're all aligned. Also within this bill, we are being called upon to address equity in transportation. There are provisions in the IIJA that have been expanded from past federal bills, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done to apply this to the aspects of the transportation planning work we need to do, and that MPO is facilitating and coordinating with our regional partners to develop the strategies to infuse those equity requirements into our practices. The rules for a lot of this work has not been written yet, and we need further study, additional research and communication with our US DOT partners to make sure that we understand these requirements in full. So there's a lot of work to do on the policy side. And then the next big pot that I wanted to talk to you about is achieving regional support and consensus on the competitive programs. Obviously, even beyond the formula and the policies, I think the big shiny ball we're all been excited about is these 20+ competitive programs, and how do we leverage our resources to make sure that our region does the best in this process. So talking a little bit about that, we can move on. I'm not going to highlight all of the competitive programs, because there is 20+ programs, but we've already been working with the U.S. Department of Transportation and with our federal partners across the region to try to get our best handle about what these competitive programs are and how to access them, and what are some of our concerns and questions about them. I'm sure you all already pulled down the 500-page guidebook that USDOT provided this week that's supposed to make things easier for regions. I'm not sure it's much more simplified than what you already saw in the bill. So again, there's a lot of work in trying to figure out, what does this actually mean? What are the timelines? How do we access this? So to talk a little bit about the programs themselves, obviously that's been an interest of all of ours is the Congestion Relief Program. It's $250 million over 5 years, which is ultimately not a large amount of money, but it has been a program that Senator Duckworth wanted to bring to the table and start because of the issues and things that we were seeing in the region. And so this is definitely one of the spaces that we would like to spend some time looking at how that funding could be most beneficial for the region. We have a new Healthy Streets program that looks at resiliency issues. Well, there's a new EV formula or competitive program that would be complementary to the formula program. So again, what is our region? We're really obviously in a very new space at EVs in this region. We want to spend some more time making sure that we're preparing for that opportunity. There's also, you can go to the next slide, the Reconnecting Communities pilot program, which again is something that's new for this region, and having conversations and making sure that we understand what would be priorities for programs like that. A new transportation access pilot program that looks at accessibility and really talks a little bit more about different criteria being used to look at projects than maybe we have traditionally been done, which I think we're excited about, but again, would need new criteria and a new frame for our region. There's the All Stations Accessibility Program with the conversations we've been having here about ADA. Again, something that Senator Duckworth has been pushing for. Know that that's something that the CTA and our partners really have been focused on. And so how do we, again, as a region, make sure that we are being as competitive as possible in bringing those resources to our region? Smart Mobility Demonstration Grant Program. Again, the ability to look at technology, advanced smart city technologies and systems in order to improve efficiency. And I think especially now as we build back from the pandemic, being able to have those opportunities and being prepared and ready and is going to be critical. And the last set of competitive programs I just wanted to touch on is obviously there's the Railroad Crossing Elimination Program. Again, in complement to a formula program, but with over 1,200 grade crossings in our region. We have already gone through the process of prioritizing the top 47. How do we move those projects forward as fast as possible? Infrastructure Project Assistant Grant, being called MEGA. Again, we've also still got Infra and RAISE. Those I didn't highlight here, but those programs still exist. And how do we complement the mega projects with our infra applications for the region, again, to be as successful as possible. Two other opportunities is the motor vehicle per mile user fee pilot, obviously something that we've talked a lot about here with our road usage charge. What are the different sort of innovative things that the region could be doing together? And then a toll credit exchange pilot as well. And again, this is only the top line programs. Again, we're diving deep and trying to learn about different requirements, timelines, but I wanted to share with you some reflections about how we're approaching the competitive programs for the region. So if we want to head to the next slide. I think some takeaways that I think we've heard from you here in this forum, and that we also are very supportive of and seeing as we have to work together as one region to be successful. And when we do that, we have been successful. We have things like the CREATE program where we've seen that happen. or again, the grade crossings, that when we can speak in one voice and leverage all of our time together, then we actually have been successful. In order to do that, we're going to need to set up frameworks and evaluation criteria and convene. We really want to have regional consensus about what are the different projects that we're putting forward at USDOT and not actually working against each other. If we don't work together to try to access these funds, we probably will be harming the region instead of helping it, as we'll be competing against each other and not only against the rest of the nation. It's the exact opposite of the intention of the legislation. And I think one of the key things about that is if we compete against each other, we're going to leave the disconnected communities and those that don't have the resources to be in this game. And that is exactly what USDOT doesn't want to do. And a lot of our conversations with them has been around, if we don't set some parameters and we don't speak in a regional voice and help capacity of other communities, that they actually aren't going to get what they want and will be coming back to us saying, we don't have the projects we were interested in doing. And so we want to be working with them. So in my next slide, again, CMAP's role as being having the regional lens, we really feel like we can convene the region stakeholders and implementers to start using these forums for these conversations. We believe that if we have a consensus approach on this funding, we'll be able to evaluate programs, understand their eligibility and frameworks, and be able to put forth the best projects for the region. As I noted, DOT has been working with us to try to act as a conduit to the economically disconnected communities that can't access these funds. So they've been talking to us about roles that maybe MPOs could play to train the trainer, deal with grant applications, simplify the NOFO process so that different communities can access these. I mean, I know that I've been involved in some, thousands of dollars are spent on applications. That's just not something that a lot of the communities are going to be able to do. And so how do we help as a conduit so that they can access different funding? We're working with, oh yeah.
Can I just hop in for 1 minute here too? I mean, just thinking about sort of the size and scale of the programs and activities, right? There's those mega programs map out really well and nicely to, I think, some of the things that we have in On to 2050, right? The regionally significant projects. So thinking about, what of those are ready to go and can we have consensus around? But I think a lot of the competitive grant programs, they range from mega size projects to like very small tactical improvements. So like the healthy streets stuff, right? And maybe that's something where this committee helps us prioritize which of these competitive programs actually are meaningful for us to collaborate on. And maybe something, and I don't mean to pick on the Healthy Streets program because I think, again, there's lots of opportunity, but maybe that's something where we don't feel like it's our best in our best interest to like prioritize those projects because there are going to be so many competing from all of the communities across our region, but that the focus of our agency then is really on that capacity building for communities that want to apply so that they can be competitive. So just wanted to sort of provide that perspective to this group as well, is that we aren't sort of proposing to tackle all of these things and create a framework for all of the projects that could come in. But I think with your input and discussion here, we will be able to select sort of a manageable size of things that then we can provide that sort of value add convenings around. So go ahead, Laura, sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Again, and a good clarification that we were not saying that all of these need to be picked up and all of them need to go through the process. I think right now we're at that place where we're trying to get a handle on which ones align with programs we already have, which ones are completely new, which ones are, have other ways of being addressed. Just again, so that we don't drop any of the balls on any of these programs where we could be bringing in resources to the region. But it will not be a one size fits all for all of the competitive programs. Again, I think a lot of our conversation with USDOT is how do we make the application for all of these as simple, approachable, and effective to what they want to get, and that the MPOs have been a good conduit to help get that information to our regions and to our communities. So we've been having a lot of those conversations. Again, this is an exciting opportunity, and I know we've all been working for a really long time to try to get this bill passed. And so we're really excited to dig in and work on all of this with you as we move forward. I know that this doesn't lay out all of the things CMAP is doing, but it's definitely brings into focus how we can play a role with you to bring the resources home from the IIJA. And I'd be happy to take any questions or any input about how you'd like to see us approach this work.
Thanks, Laura. That was really a really fantastic overview. And I know for me, it really helped me understand both the programs and responsibilities that, well, why you need to ramp up to meet the needs of some of the programs that are in your responsibility, but then also how you want to help the region work together on these competitive programs. So thank you for that. Does anyone have questions for Laura or Aaron?
If not, I will be reaching out to all of you in different ways as we start digging into all of these programs, and excited again to go through that 500-page guidebook myself. So we'll round back with everyone here. Thanks.
All right, great.
Setting up again, I was just going to share too, like setting it up again, like maybe there are some programs that you all are particularly interested in that we need to develop some sub working groups on as well. So, you know, I think framing this through your lens and helping us understand, like, do we need to really focus on EVs, you know, and what EV infrastructure is ready? I know that ITS infrastructure is really important to this region and congestion. How can we be prepared to actually get some investments to help move those things forward? So again, it's mapping out where your priorities are, where the region's priorities are, and where these funding pots are. And so I do expect that we're going to be calling you and being like, we need you to work on this, help us map this out and figure this out. So thanks to Laura for really, I think, going through all those details.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Aaron, also. So a little homework for the committee. Be prepared to receive those calls and think about how to give some feedback to CMAP on it. So, all right, let's move on to agenda item 4, approval items. Here, we're going to have Yusuf provide an update on the FY 2023 UWP budget that we'll be voting on. So Yusuf.
Great, thank you very much. Before I begin my remarks, I'd like to follow up on Aaron's earlier comments and welcome Ms. Hector Sue and Mr. Carrier as the chair and vice chair of the Transportation Committee. And I certainly look forward to working with the both of you going forward. And Jessica, I'd like to also wish you a happy Lunar New Year as well. So if we can move to the next slide. So before I begin, I think what's really important, and one thing I wanted to sort of highlight a little bit is, you know, if we think with the end in mind, which is to improve our region's transportation network, and then work backwards, the intent of our fiscal year 23 UWP budget, as well as our FY 23 comprehensive budget and work plan, is intended to bring more money to this region. It is intended to complete the activities that our partners are going to need to drive the implementation of some of these new activities going forward, and also to provide technical research and services capacity to all of you for some of the day-to-day activities that you're undertaking. You will see those 3 themes, I think, being weaved into all of the activities that I'll be mentioning in the slides going forward. Next slide, please. So I've broken these down into different areas of work that we'll be doing, and the first one I want to focus on, but I also do want to make mention that there are a number of activities in the next slides coming up, be it the ADA work, the safety work, and some of the work that we're getting from Ecopia that is not funded directly by the FY 23 UWP budget, but it's included in our comprehensive budget through our own grants with IDOT. So I just want to make that clarification. On the ADA transition plans, last year, during our MPO self-certification process, the FHWA impressed the need to address the region's lack of compliance with Tier 2. In response to that, CMAP has developed a multi-year program to support local governments in developing ADA transition plans to help our communities identify and prioritize ADA plans. In FY 23, we'll begin this work, and we've dedicated approximately $2 million to deploy a team of staff and consultants to initiate a support program for our communities to complete these plans. I think for our partners, I think these plans will certainly be going a long way in educating what we need to do in terms of breaking down the accessibility challenges and developing priorities in our region. Much of this work can also be used going forward for some of the IIJA funding programs, as I've noted here in the slide. So I think that is certainly a way that we're going to be helping you identify the challenges, identify the solutions, but to also leverage these opportunities to bring in more funding into our region through these applicable programs. Next slide. With regards to safety, the Transportation Committee has been concerned with rising fatalities in our region and has called upon CMAP to convene our stakeholders and identify actionable strategies for addressing traffic fatalities. In response to this, we have embarked on a multi-year regional-wide safety strategy program that targets the reduction of fatalities on our roadway. One of the things that we're going to be doing this coming year, and we've already done already, is to purchase speed data to analyze 1 month of complete automobile data throughout our region. This work will identify locations and circumstances where higher speed traffic creates or contributes to hazardous conditions, and will serve as a first step to establishing a region-wide safety data clearinghouse here at CMAP. In addition, we will be developing procedures to improve the efficiency and effectiveness and processing and cleaning crash data necessary to support the safety action agenda and local safety studies here at CMAP. Much of this work can also assist all of you going forward in preparing for some of the IIJA programs, including the Highway Safety and Improvement Program and the Safe Streets and Roads for All program as well. Next slide. On resiliency, our region's transportation vulnerability assessment will work off existing work from our partners at the Illinois Department of Transportation and the Regional Transportation Authority to broaden our understanding of climate vulnerabilities to our region's transportation system, to develop strategies to reduce climate-related risks in the future. Work in this space can be leveraged to reduce the non-federal share of the PROTECT program projects being carried out by the PROTECT program by up to 10%. Next slide. This is one that I'm really excited about, and I've been spending a lot of time working with folks internally and at the University of Illinois Chicago. One of the things that I've realized in the short time that I've been at CMAP is we are a powerhouse of data in our region, and we are continually looking to be more innovative in the data that we collect. And moving forward, we are looking to unleash that data in much more powerful and applied ways to benefit all of you. And some of the things that we're doing in that respect are the following. My colleagues here, led by Todd Schmidt and others, have been working on purchasing next generation data from Acopia. This data can be used for transportation modeling, investment decisions, while significantly reducing the time required relative to traditional analysis methods. We're going to be embarking on developing an applied research services program, leveraging our existing and new data products to address the regional issues and answer big questions that are paramount to our partners. Part of that activity is working with the University of Illinois Chicago, using their resources there, getting their ideas, and having them assisting us going forward on trying to apply some of our data to some of the region's problems. And many of those problems are problems that we're looking to hear from you on. We're looking at initiating a GIS services program, which will assist our regional partners with GIS professional services, including the creation of custom desktop and web applications with jurisdictional data, converting non-spatial data into a GIS format, providing day-to-day GIS problem solving and GIS training and data conversion for our partners. Internally, we are building our training programs in GIS and transportation modeling to build our core capacity, but also to assist you with yours. And this is what I think is really going to be helpful for all of you going forward. Because from my conversations with many of our partners is that your capacities on GIS and transportation modeling is not as strong as I think what ours is. And we're really looking forward to working with all of you to get some of those day-to-day activities done that I'm certain are bogging you down more than they probably should be. Next slide. We're looking at developing a transportation project analysis tool, and the intent of this tool is to help our region meet its most critical transportation needs using the limited dollars that we have. By evaluating potential transportation projects based on key factors like how they improve safety, reduce congestion, increase accessibility, contribute to economic development, and promote efficient land use. The information from this can be used by our regional partners to help guide and inform project selection decisions while bolstering your applications for the IIJA. In the fall of this past year, in the fall of 2021, we had issued a request for information to consultants on this particular tool and have gotten their feedback. In the next couple of months, we're going to be working on developing the scope of this and setting up an advisory panel as well, consisting of our regional partners to help us in developing the scope and helping us along the way as we develop this product. Next slide. Our Regional Infrastructure Accelerator Program is really beginning to take shape, and work on this will begin very, very shortly, and probably in the next few weeks, you'll begin to hear announcements about this. Public-private partnerships are increasingly a common form of procurement for public assets, not only here in the United States, but in Canada and around the world. They enable governments to share risks in building large infrastructure projects with the private sector. And they provide incentives for builders to deliver projects on time and on budget while leveraging innovation, efficiency in design, construction, and project management. Last fall, as you're aware, we received a $1 million grant from the Build America Bureau to explore the use of public-private partnerships in expediting the development for needed bridge rehabilitations, electrical vehicle infrastructure, and ADA transition projects in our region. So moreover, the grant is going to support CMAP in the region in building capacity and culture to support innovative project delivery and financing. So as I mentioned at the beginning of my comments, very shortly we'll begin doing work on the Infrastructure Accelerators grant, and that includes issuing a request for proposal for program management services and bringing in hopefully a full-time employee to assist with the development of this program. Next slide. Cost escalation, I think in my own experience, and I'm sure in many of yours, is an engineering marvel on its own. And it certainly does not stop there in the development of our projects. Engineering challenges, approval obstacles have made it far more complex and challenging to complete major infrastructure projects on time and on budget. In the coming months, following the IIJA, major projects have and will continue to be proposed. And the demand created by these new projects will certainly lead to higher wages, material costs, and exacerbate the existing labor shortage. And that said, the need for more prudent risk assessment is fundamental to the on-time and on-budget success of each capital project, and an important step in accurately estimating and comparing the total risk-adjusted cost for delivering these projects and delivering value to our residents. As a result of these challenges, we intend on developing a transportation risk register that will assist you in identifying, assessing, allocating, and mitigating project risks. So there's a fair number of projects, of deliverables and services that we're currently working on here, and the intent is to provide you with value and services in order to improve our region's infrastructure and our transportation system. But before we can do that, we need to be bringing in those dollars into our region, and we certainly hope that many of the things that I've mentioned, as well as Laura's, is going to help you in doing that. That is the conclusion of my comments. If there are any questions, I'm more than happy to field them on any of the things that I've discussed. Thank you.
Thanks, Yusuf. Would you also like to give the group a little bit of an overview of the UWP funding request that we'll be voting on?
Yeah, that's going to, I think I'm transferring that one over to Angela.
Okay, great. Before we do that, we can take questions for you though. Any questions for Yusuf?
I'll just go ahead and add to that, you know, this is just a sampling of sort of what's in our annual work plan and budget. So again, the support for the planning liaisons, continuing to support them as they get up to speed. I know we've got a number of new ones across the region in their programming activities. You know, again, our programming staff, our ability to do small traffic models across the region to, as you bring your big projects to the region, us doing travel demand modeling on those projects and those project alternatives. Those are all still core to our work plan and program. We just thought we would bring a number of the new tools that we're planning on being focused on in this upcoming year, especially as it relates to some of the big bill activities, right? So if we're looking at resiliency and there's new resiliency funds, we're well positioned with the Regional Vulnerability Assessment Project to be able to define what that looks like. And so through Laura and my conversations with our folks at USDOT too, we want to offer them these solutions and be a leader for them in helping the rest of the MPOs across the country sort of understand how we should tackle these issues together. So happy to answer questions about either these bigger projects or some of the more tactical things that we always do for you, but wanted to make sure that you all know that all that other stuff is still in there.
Yeah, thanks, Erin. Thanks for that clarification. Yeah. Any questions for Erin and Yusuf? Leah?
Well, just a question for Yusuf about the project risk register. I know we do that for some of our major capital projects, and it's a kind of a core requirement from FTA. And I'm wondering how this would would that be a new requirement for projects, or would it be sort of additive to what we're doing, or would it be something that was sort of available to us to use? How do you see that being implemented?
Yeah, so it would be both one, additive, but two, certainly be available to you to use. I think the entire premise of what we want to do here is we are very, I think, privileged in a way that we have this we manage a transportation improvement program in our region. So we have a vast database of projects from which to work from and historical data available to us. And the intent is to take a deep dive into that data and take a look at the risks that have continuously transpired amongst our projects, identify those, what has been the probability of occurrence of those risks happening in our projects, and effectively try to track what the impact from a cost and scheduling perspective have been. But then also to take a look at best practices in the market from our other partner jurisdictions, whether it be here in the region or across the state or across the country, and get a sense as to, in their commercial contracts, where has that risk been allocated? Has the public sector typically held on to that risk? Has it been shared, or has it been transferred? And so it's really taking a deep dive to go beyond project risk identification, but to properly allocate where that risk resides based on market precedent, and to get a better understanding and appreciation on the cost and the scheduling impact of these risks when they transpire. And if there are 5 or 10 risks that stand out from an impact perspective, then I think that gives us also an opportunity to really generate conversation as to how we as a region and across the state are going to mitigate against those risks. Because I think at a very high level, we oftentimes just talk about these risks. We know that permitting is a huge risk. We know that approval, there's delays in these things, but we don't really have like a number to identify it to really address the situation, but also to talk about how we're mitigating against those. So, sort of a long-winded answer there, Leah, but I think the point I'm trying to make is we're trying to use this tool as both additive, but for our partners' intentions to get through what I think the market has signaled to us, and that is, getting these large infrastructure projects are only going to get far more complicated or costly going forward. And we're here to try to navigate those problems.
Yeah, that was really helpful, Yusuf, because I misunderstood that. I misunderstood it the first go around and thought it was more like a tool that we would use, but really you're diving in to actually evaluate projects that have occurred and where we can sort of where these bigger risks are happening and how we can address them ahead of time. And I think one of the things that, not to be too long-winded myself, but there really isn't such a thing as a risk transfer to the private sector in a lot of cases, because they can't sustain those risks, and they'll find ways to put them back on us. So if we try to transfer too much, our prices just go up. So I think we need to be thoughtful about that as we're doing this. But I think that's a great initiative as you've just described it. So thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Leah. Any other questions for Yusuf?
I have a comment.
Sure, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you very much for the presentation. This is been very helpful to understand some of the things that CMAP is moving into. I know I spent some time just trying to get up to date on the infrastructure accelerator program, the $1 million grant, and the project analysis tool that CMAP's going to be working on. But the risk register was an area that I was really trying to understand. So this discussion has been very helpful. So thank you on that. And the efforts that we're working on that are coming up, the ADA transition, the safety, this committee has voiced that this is an area that we really need to dig into, and we really appreciate the efforts that CMAP is doing on that. And I appreciate Todd's been helping me out. Todd Smith has been helping me out with some of the data that I've been looking at, trying to understand some of the safety concerns, some of the accident information. So I just want to say thank you for this presentation and helping us to better understand some of the direction that we're going in.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, well said. Any others have questions or comments?
Hey, this is Rocco. I was just going to echo kind of what you just said, Tom. Always brilliant every word that comes out of your mouth. But yeah, thanks for the forward-looking opportunities for the region. I appreciate that you mentioned the data, and we do have a lot of data. How do you use that? And how do we best share that information and use it for other purposes? And then also the GIS programs. There's, again, with respect to data, there's just so much information that's out there. And it would be nice to make sure that our staffs are aware of what data is available, any training programs that you could offer as far as that goes. I think it would be helpful to understand how we could do better at the agencies, understanding the different layers and how to mesh those layers to help us with decision making and evaluation of projects. So also like the thoughts about the regional accelerator program, and there's a lot to learn on the risk, as you said. So thanks for the clarification on that, and good question on that too, Leah. So appreciate it. Yeah, but just wanted to say thanks. I think this is I like the forward-lookingness of what you put out here.
Thank you, Rocco. I appreciate the kind words. Thank you.
And I'm just gonna layer on top of that. I think Laura, your excitement is it's contagious, right? I think we all are, but we're still trying to wrap our heads around, what this bill is and what the opportunities are. And I think it was even more exciting to see this presentation because it really, we see the breadth of, funding and potential project types that, and we think about the needs in our region, but these, all of these items in the second presentation really show how we can have a focused approach on, getting there. And also, I think more importantly, having some more tools and resources at our fingertips that can be used for a variety of other purposes, for the communities in our region. And for that, I just wanted to share my excitement as well.
Thanks, Tara. Anyone else have comments or questions? For Yusuf? All right. Thank you, Yusuf, for this overview. This was really helpful. I agree with what the others have shared, and it really builds on what Laura shared a moment ago. So it sounds like we'll have Angela talk with us more about the specific UWP program vote. Go ahead, Angela.
Absolutely. Good morning, committee. It's a tough act to follow, Laura and Yusuf. I mean, their projects are exciting. The numbers are always boring, but I'll do my best. So good morning, Transportation Committee. Today I want to provide a short overview of the FY23 budget. You've heard Aaron and Laura and Yusuf talk about the planned work for next fiscal year, and there's tons of work to be done in next fiscal year. The 23 budget proposal presented today aligns the funding with the work outlined in our work plan and all the wonderful and important work that was covered during today's presentation. Today, I'm putting forth a proposal to the committee to approve a request of, I'm sorry, I'm a little tight-tongued today. Today, CMAP is requesting approval of the FY23 UWP budget in the amount of $28.5 million, which is an increase of $4.1 million as compared to the prior fiscal year. This budget is comprised of...
Angela, can I interrupt and ask them to move to the next slide, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, Erin. I'm looking at my, okay.
Nope, I know you are, so thank you. Interrupt.
Multitasking. Thank you, Erin. The budget is comprised of CMAP receiving 22.7 million, which is an increase of 3.9 million or 17% as compared to the prior fiscal year for our core activities. This additional funding is being applied in two ways. The agency will be hiring 14 positions to cover all of the work outlined in our work plan and some of the work encompassed in the presentation today, which is an 18% increase as compared to the prior fiscal year, and then 1.2 million or 40% increase in our contractual dollars. This budget also includes core funding for our UWP partners, which includes CDOT, CTA, PACE, METRA, Council of Mayors, and this year Kane County in the amount of 4.6 million. And a breakdown of each agency's allocation has been included in the memo that's been provided to you. Under the competitive program, 400,000 is being awarded to CTA to fund their loop rail capacity modeling project. Also included in the FY23 UWP budget is $714,000 for complete street programming. This is a new requirement under IIJA. The agency is working with IDOT to understand the implementation requirements of this program before submitting for the plan for implementation. Finally, some good news in addition to the budget. In partnership with IDOT, CMAP was able to secure full match funding for all UWP partner agencies. This additional funding brings about $5.7 million in additional funding to the region. The entire UWP program will be covered by federal and state funding. No match will be required by UWP partners for fiscal year 23. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions the committee may have.
All right, thanks so much, Angela, for that. Let's go ahead and entertain a motion to approve before we discuss.
King County.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the FY23 UWP budget.
I think we had Tom out of the gate first with the motion. And Michael, do you want a second?
Sure, I'll second it. Thanks, Tom.
Okay. Thanks. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or comments for Angela? Any discussion?
I can go ahead, Jessica. I have a quick question. And yeah, thanks Angela and everyone else today too for great presentations. Just looking forward a little bit, you know, for future years, does EJA have, is this increase in the UWP, is it similar for the remaining years of the program? Are there any increases in it as we look forward to, you know, 24 and beyond?
So this is the baseline year, and I believe, and IDOT can comment, can chime in if they want. This is the baseline year, and every year after is a 2% increase above. So over the next 4 years, you would think it's going to increase about 8%. Okay.
And then I know, I think this is just for this year with the local match too, but just moving forward, I don't know if there's been any discussions yet, or if you're planning on discussions for how that's going to be, you know, handled or whatnot too. I mean, it's another portion of it, I guess, as well. But if not, I mean, just maybe continue discussions at the UWP committee for, you know, those out years and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I just wanted to thank IDOT. They've been great partners throughout this process. We had to get our budget together fairly quickly once we got the marks, but they've been amazing. And I just wanted to say thank you to them.
And I'll just, Kevin, on your point there too, we had a conversation with our executive committee. You know, one of the things that the agency did in 2016, that this region did not have local dues until 2016, but all of my major metro peers from across the country do have local dues that support that 80-20 match. Many of our other partners, in looking at sort of how they continue to achieve sort of the increase in the federal bill, have regularly scheduled increases for those dues. So over this next year, we are going to be, I'm going on a roadshow to talk to all the Council of Mayors and our biggest partners across the region. But B, we're developing a couple scenarios to see, you know, we certainly can't just say, hey, doubling local dues and that'll help us meet the match. That's where we need to get to. But looking over the course of the bill, I think what we want to do is think about what an appropriate approach there is. And using our community cohort model, we've also segmented our most needy communities at this point don't pay. And then there are discounts for folks that are in sort of those higher need categories. I think we'll just develop a couple of those alternative scenarios, be working those through with the board, also talking to the MPO and bringing those to Transportation Committee and all of our committees to talk about in the coming year. So it's on the agenda, lots more to do.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Aaron. I appreciate that. And yeah, everything you guys do, this is great. And all the presentations today were awesome and helpful. So thank you guys.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Kevin. Tom.
Yeah, I want to thank the CMAP staff for bringing us through this process. I know we were on a very short timeline and we had a lot of things that needed to occur, and this is going to put us, I think, in a position that will be an advantage to the region. So I appreciate that. I just want to make some comments in regards to some discussions that the counties had. And again, we feel that this is the right direction to get this moving forward. At the same time, I want to just say that there were a couple concerns that came out in when the counties got together to discuss this, and it was primarily in the area of the reduction for the counties that occurred this year. That was done because my Kane County plan, I don't need all the funding that would typically be allocated to us. The other counties said that when their time comes up in the future, they are concerned about that being restored. So I'm mentioning that. The other thing is I really want to make sure that as a region that we're discussing here in the near future, the competitive program aspects. I think the MPO and the CMAP board have both said that they want this to be part of the UWP program. And not that it has to be, and we as a region can decide that it's not, but I think we really need to have some good, healthy discussions on what we can do to make sure there is a competitive program. Also, support of the local technical assistance program. I really do believe that this is probably one of the best things that we do here as CMAP is to address some of those types of technical needs and assisting some of our local communities in order to address things that they wouldn't even be able to consider without that funding. And so this year there wasn't any monies allocated towards that directly, but I know CMAP works with other funding sources to assist with that. So I just like to have some discussions in the near future to make sure that we're talking about how to continue that program. Again, for me, and maybe others don't agree with this, I think it is one of the more beneficial programs for the region. And then work plan wise, I'd really like to make sure that this committee, for sure that we have some of the preliminary discussions in the development of the work plan. This is something where the UWP funds are a large component of the work plan. CMAP, I think, the staff does an excellent job in pulling together a work plan, but it's something that typically, historically, this committee has not seen. And I'd just like to ask that there be some consideration that we be a little bit more involved. Again, I don't know what type of input or whether it'll be productive input, but I really feel the region as a whole, as MPO agencies, that hopefully there's some value in that and that we can assist as a transportation committee in developing the work plan. So those are my comments as a whole. Again, thank you to staff for the work they've done. I know this was a short time frame to turn it all around, so good job on that.
Yeah, thanks. If I could offer just a couple notes too. We certainly recognize that there are going to be variations in budgets moving forward, especially, as you highlighted there too. The county's projects have varied over the years. Recognize that there are different scales and sizes of programs. I think too, again, as we look to developing our budget in the future, having a broader range of stakeholders than the UWP committee has typically had. Well, they were really focused on scoring the grant applications for the competitive programs. Often we don't have, the way that was set up was very specific for a very specific need when CMAP started. So again, I think thinking about what the right level of conversation is for a number of these issues and budget development and the programs and activities that support you all is totally appropriate for us to talk about. And I think the opportunity too with the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act as well, is thinking about how the Transportation Committee might need to have some more structure or working groups or, focused activities moving forward. So I know that the MPO has been, interested in talking about the Transportation Committee and the committee realignment process that we went through. We intentionally did not touch Transportation Committee and the line of programs and working groups that we have, because we knew that in this coming year, we will have more information on the needs that the transportation element of our core activities will really need to have. So we look forward to continuing that conversation. And then just on LTA, I know Stephanie's out of town this week, but she would love to hear that. It's so important to us. We continue to want to be committed to that. We usually go for SPR for those funds through the state, and that is above and beyond our UWP budget. But I think as we look to sort of the additional resources that we have with the infrastructure bill for MPO planning, maybe that's something that we think about as being a core activity as opposed to sort of being, something that we continually have to seek grants for. We will need complementary funds for sure, but again, finding ways, I think, to build that in and make sure that it's, again, it's been something that's our board is 100% committed to. So thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Erin. Any other comments or questions? Leah.
Oh, had to unmute there. I think this was really helpful to understand this budget in the context of all the different things that CMAP will be doing and expanding to be able to take on. So I just want to thank you guys for taking the time to do this. And it was really kind of a rush for everybody to get through this budget cycle, which isn't ideal, but seems like this is actually really great to see this all together. And in terms of the competitive program, I think continuing to look to SPR and find ways to make those funds available. We have some exciting planning work that we'd like to fund around electric bus and preparing for those types of things. So we'll look forward to working with you guys, and thanks for taking the time to do this.
Thank you, Leah. Other questions or comments? All right, I know from our perspective, we definitely appreciate this information. It's really helped us understand more about what CMAP plans to do in the coming year to set us all up for success on the federal bill, and also just help us understand a little bit more about how you're kind of using a lot of the institutional knowledge that CMAP has about competitive programs that came from the UWP process in the past and are kind of leveraging that to lead us into the future. So we really appreciate that. I know the UWP committee had a lot of questions. We and other partners did, and I feel like you've really done a great job answering those questions today. So thank you so much for that. So let's go ahead and take a vote, Lindsay.
Okay, we'll start with Khalil Clements. And send a chat if you can't speak. Darwin Burkhart.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kevin Carrier.
Yes.
Lynette Ciavarella.
Yes.
Leah Mooney.
Yes.
Doug Ferguson.
Yes.
Jessica Hector Sue.
Yes.
John Paul Deepla.
Yes.
Mike Vanderhoof.
Yes.
Jackie Forbes.
Yes.
Christina Kopkowski.
Yes.
Eric Llewellyn.
Yes.
Chris Hebert.
Abstain.
Tara Orban.
Yes.
Heidi Persad.
Yes.
John Basic.
Yes.
Thank you. Tom Rickert.
Yes.
Mayor Rockingham.
Aye.
Joe Schofer.
Yes.
Vig Krishnamurthy.
Aye.
Chris Snyder.
Yes.
P.S. Siraj. I don't think it's here. Audrey Wennick.
Yes.
And Rocco Zucchero.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 5, public comment. Do we have any public comments? just a reminder to please use your raise hand feature or type a comment in the comment box for our CMAP staff if you have a comment.
So we didn't receive any comments in advance of the meeting. I'm trying to see. I'm going to unmute Garland Armstrong.
Okay, great.
Happy belated New Year, everybody. It's Garland Armstrong calling from Des Moines, Iowa. How you doing?
Hi, Garland.
Just want to congratulate CMAP for helping, making sure to get the ADA along the way, because it's really definitely a best transition. Aaron, thank you for everything, and I just want y'all to know that this past last Saturday, me and Heather celebrate our 18th wedding anniversary, and as you know, she had a birthday on New Year's Day, and then my birthday is coming up in 19 more days, and I'll be 56 years old. So I just want to wish y'all a great work for this month, especially for my birthday countdown, and I want y'all to know, keep it going, and I'll be able to watch y'all, and I'll be watching y'all this coming Wednesday for the CMAP board meeting. And Jessica, you're doing an awesome job, and tell everybody at the RTA that I'll be seeing y'all Thursday, and keep up the good work, and you make sure you tell everybody at the RTA at the board for their board meeting, okay?
All right, thank you, Garland. So good to hear from you. Happy anniversary, happy birthday, and take care over there in Iowa.
If
All
I
right.
could too, can I just say thank you to you, Garland, too, and to Heather for consistently, continuing to ask us to challenge ourselves as transportation agencies and planning agencies to really consider the whole needs of our community members. So thank you for being here.
Thanks. And you make sure that we get all the communication together.
Thank you, Garland.
All right.
Do we have any other, take care. All right, do we have any other public comments?
I do not see any other hands raised, so I don't think so.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to agenda item 6, next meeting. Our next meeting will be very soon on February 25th, 2022. We will see you all there, and we will now move on to adjournment. Seeing no other business before the committee, I'm actually going to take a motion in a second and then a roll call vote for this one. So do I have a motion to adjourn? I think I had a motion from Kevin, and do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah, thank you. I got a second from Leah. All right, actually, I'm going to just take a voice vote for this. Do we have a vote to adjourn?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Awesome.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great Friday.
Have a good one. Happy birthday, Garland.